The judge didn't block the NCAA settlement over money. She did it over the roster limits, the biggest thing that we're focused on, and that could change everything.
You are Locked On Kansas State, your daily podcast on the Kansas State Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Christian Rao, and thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen every single day. Welcome back to my everydayers. Let's dive into another episode here on the channel, and we have a good one for you today because we're diving back into another update of this settlement case. We had some thoughts on it just a few days ago about what possibly could be going on in the world of this settlement case with the NCAA, with these roster limits. Well, we finally got another answer on Wednesday night. We're going to dive into that. Before we do, though, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Well, just when it looked like college athletics were finally about to get their payday, a federal judge hits the brakes. And that NCAA, that $2.7, $2.8 billion settlement, that deal that was supposed to change everything, that could be, quite frankly, when it does, as I've said on this show quite a few times so far this week, act like a nuclear bomb across college athletics as we know it, may be dead on arrival. Why? Well, not because of money, not because of the fact of the monetary amount that we have seen across these articles in these hearings, but because of the roster limits. And that has honestly been the thing that I have heard the most about being the major concern when it comes to the football team, especially with the 105 roster limit. And this isn't just a legal technicality. It's a full-blown crisis that could stall the future of college sports. So let's break that down, why it happened, why the judge is pushing back. And it's, for the record, not the first time she's pushing back, and what that means for the players, the school, and the system for what we thought that was about to be revolutionized. And for the record, was kind of already happening. There were some issues that were already occurring, especially right in our backyard in Kansas State. We're going to dig all into that on today's episode. So what just happened, after kind of just laying the groundwork for you here at the beginning of this show? Happy Thursday, by the way. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. Judge Claudia Wilken overseeing this case for the NCAA hearing, the settlement case that is going to change college athletics, signals that she plans to reject the current proposed settlement. The main issue, as I mentioned, not money, is the roster limit reform that's included in the deal. This is the second time that she has expressed concern about this, making the NCAA go back to the drawing boards and bring something new. They didn't really bring anything new this time around, and it's like they were playing chicken with a federal judge, and the federal judge said shenanigans, must have had a couple pieces of flair on, and just straight up said, hey, I'm serious, this roster limit needs to be fixed. The proposal would allow schools to exceed the NCAA scholarship in roster caps, and that's something that is in the fact of changing, which, for example, would be more than 85 football scholarships. And although this does happen more than college football, it happens across all college athletics, for good reason. The main focus is on the football program. It essentially lets schools compensate more athletes, but what they want to do, and what's not happening, is phase in this change gradually. That's where Judge Wilken has an issue. The judge believes that they could lead to an unfair advantage and potential chaos across the schools and conferences. Now, for the record, I think regardless, we are on a path of chaos, regardless of what happens when this is finalized or not, because this is huge. And you don't preference a conversation about a topic and you begin with a nuclear bomb across college athletics and think it's not going to cause potential chaos. But the fact that she is expressing this concern when the NCAA obviously is not, which is head scratching to say the least, but not surprising to say the least as well, because the NCAA is a terrible organization. I applaud the judge. So the judge's concerns is no phased implementation on these new roster limits. It could destabilize competition, as she mentioned. She also suggested that the proposal may violate antitrust principles by creating anti-competitive advantages for some schools. And that could cause a whole nother issue down the road. And I think the biggest thing they want to get done here, which again is a surprising thing to me, is why the NCAA didn't just go ahead and get this implemented. Because why does the NCAA want to go back to court? Because it sounds like if they don't fix this, that's exactly what they got to go back and do. You don't want to have another lawsuit on your hands, and especially an antitrust one. We've seen that with multiple sports, professional and amateur level, about antitrust, and they never end up pretty. No one really ever wins those. So Wilkin has requested revisions to the settlement before it can move forward. She has given 14 days. And On3 put out a pretty good report of this. Nick Schultz of On3 talked about the whole settlement. And she told attorneys they have 14 days to either phase in or grandfather the roster limits, a central part of the final approval hearing that was in this month. The grandfathering athletes is super interesting, which to me is really interesting. Lawyers filed a supplemental brief because, again, this is the second time that Judge Wilkin has brought this up, her concerns. Now she just finally put her foot down. So lawyers put in a supplemental brief before this hearing, but did not change the verbiage around the roster limits. Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports brought that up. And Wilkin suggests phasing them in or grandfathering athletes currently on rosters. Wilkin said she would deny the settlement approval if the roster limit changes are not made. So what does that mean? Does that mean that 105, that number that we have kind of grown accustomed to over the past month or so, a little longer than that? This hearing has been going on since October, but it feels like it's really gained a lot of traction since the season has finished. And I know it was overshadowed a little bit by March Madness and things like that, but really since March, February maybe, is when we've really got this idea of the whole 105 issue. And of course, the winter transfer portal, we were talking about it as well, but it's really taken on a mind of its own over this past 60 days or so. But that 105 might not even be a thing anymore. And how frustrating is that? Could be a good thing, but also how frustrating is it that we are sitting on April 24th and we don't have an answer for what is going to occur for the fall for college football? How many players can you have on your team? And this isn't like the NFL where you can just go ahead and quickly get another job if you're released when there's a cut date just a week before the season. This is college athletics, folks. You're dealing with people's lives who are trying to grow and develop, not only trying to play on a college athletic team, but you have to also think about, okay, you're telling this player they no longer can play for you. Now, if they want to continue their dream of playing college athletics, maybe making it to the league, if we're talking NFL, which we'll talk NFL in just a minute, they have to pack their bags and go and try and apply and get to another school, transfer in, hope their credits transfer. That's a huge stressful decision. And it's happening on every single campus across the United States that has a Division I football team right now. Insane. Absolutely insane. This impacts Kansas State more than you know, and it's impacting them on a level that has been just most recent as yesterday. And I'm sure we're going to hear some more today and into Friday as well, even with this news of a possibility of a stall of this settlement hearing. So what does that mean? We heard from Coach Kleiman, the defense coordinator for Kansas State, on Wednesday, speaking for Coach Kleiman. He had some thoughts about this, and he wasn't the only one that had some thoughts about this. And for the record, I don't think he was even the most vocal when it comes to this subject. We're going to talk about that all right here next, right here on Locked On Kansas State. This episode of Locked On Kansas State is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel for the first time and place your first $5 bet, you'll get a $250 in bonus bets if that bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team, diving into player props, three-pointers, steals, assists, you name it. FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into the same game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out now. Head up to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That's FanDuel.com. Welcome back to Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, leave that like, that little thumbs up button. Just smash it once. Make that thing highlight. Helps out the channel, grows, puts it into more channels' algorithms, and gives an opportunity for them to see more things that we're doing here on Locked On Kansas State. Let me know what your thoughts about this whole settlement thing is. It's exhausting, isn't it? It gives us something to talk about, I guess, in what is normally a down period in college athletics right after March Madness. And to be completely honest, they can't keep up with the news. So I guess there's that. But let me know your thoughts in the comment description below. I'd love to hear that for sure. We're digging into this settlement thing. And just as I mentioned, it's not about money. It's not about the $2.8 billion that they like to talk about. It's not about the 20.5 salary cap that they're trying to add to these programs. It's about the roster limits. That is the big deal for Judge Wilkin heading into this settlement hearing, and why we didn't get a finalized piece on Wednesday. And college football's higher ups were in a spring meeting that will end today in Texas. Most people were trying to get comments from them about this change, this thought process, and a lot of them declined to comment. They did come out with a statement. We'll see what happens moving forward and see if they actually make these changes for the roster size. Because regardless of the fact that we might have 105 or not, teams like Kansas State, and again, they're not the only one, but teams like Kansas State are preparing like that is going to be the case. And it's hard not to do that in good faith. We saw a plethora of players put their name into the transfer portal, put out the report, put their little screenshot showing they're in the portal on social media from Kansas State on Wednesday. It was multiple players. We saw LaMichael James, grad transfer running back. We saw Jake Stronebraker, linebacker, freshman linebacker from Castle Rock, Colorado. And we saw a couple more as well. And then we didn't even talk about the ones that we've already entered the portal. Brandon Snee, who just came over to Kansas State in the winter portal, he entered last week. Noah King, part of the historic recruiting class, entered the portal. 4-star cornerback. We saw Brock Wolf enter the portal, and Trey Davis, very fast wide receiver. We saw him enter the portal as well. And I'm sure I'm missing somebody's name because there has been a decent amount of players that have entered the portal over the last few days. And this is all because, for the most part, for the names that I mentioned, especially the most recent ones, Coach Chris Kleiman had to have some difficult conversations over these past few days, about 20 different times, if you will, telling these Kansas State players who most likely want to remain in Manhattan. Why wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't you want to be with this successful program who's building something great, who's going to be a Big 12 contender, who's going to be a team with high odds to make the college football playoffs? And in my mind, they are going to be there. You have to tell them, oh, by the way, you're being cut. That's tough. It's a really tough thing. During the press conference today, Joe Kleinerman spoke about Chris Kleiman and said he said Kleiman would probably consider it a low point of his career. That sucks. That sucks, knowing that you have to have that feeling about these players that you personally invested in, recruited to come to your school. And then the governing body of the NCAA, who has to worry about this settlement, this is where the money comes in, because this settlement is because of money, not because of the roster limit. That's just an addition. someone gets to say, oh, by the way, we're putting a number on how many people you can have on your program. Now, you just have to have, you can have as many players as you want. This 105 is the cap. There's a lot of folks are thinking that Big 12 teams are only going to keep 85 scholarship players and then have about 20 walk-ons. That gives you a little bit of flexibility. I'm guessing Kansas State's going to do that as well. But that still doesn't change the fact that heading into April, to the best of my knowledge, this roster was sitting around 125 players, meaning you had to have a conversation with most likely 20 different players this week for them to put their name in the transfer portal. Now, if this comes back and they say we're going to grandfather in this, there's nothing that says they can't withdraw from the portal and come back in. We're seeing this happen with basketball a lot because of the whole eligibility issue. We're seeing this happen with basketball right now. People are putting their name in the portal just for the case, just in case they get some eligibility, at least their name is in the portal. Because once the portal's closed, you can't go anywhere. You can always withdraw your name. So I think this is in good faith, something that Chris Kleiman and the coaching staff's doing. They don't have to do this. You don't have to be technically at 105, really, we thought, until fall camp. But we were assuming it was going to be implemented around like July 1st or something like that. Right now, we don't know if it's ever going to happen. But Coach Kleiman talked about how he wanted to make sure that the people that he was saying they need to move on have an opportunity to land somewhere else. And I love that for Coach Kleiman. It's an impact for the program. But again, I think that's a really good thing in the long run as well. It shows that you care about the people that are actually here. And I think that goes farther than worrying about the program in the smaller aspect of it. It's a tragedy. It's terrible. It's awful. That's what Coach Kleiman said. K-State and I want to be here is an I want to be here place. K-State's not a stop along the way place. A kid that really wants to be here, to tell him he can't be a part of it, that's awful. I hate that. I hate it. The thing is this. Even if the 105 goes away, and I hope it does. I hope it's at least grandfathered in or phased in or whatever they want to do. You know, go from 125 to the limit to 120, to go down 5 or whatever the case is, or just give a full year. Give a full year. Say, we will go to 105 in 2026. Let this recruiting class that has already been accepted, this college athletic class that's already had a crazy run with COVID and super seniors and already have to battling other players with extra years of eligibility that they never would have had to in other years, just play. If you had a full year to worry about this 105, you could slowly phase it out. You could have a smaller recruiting class. Whatever the case may be, you could have a plan. You're not really given an opportunity to have a plan when you're saying, oh, by the way, you have 2 months to cut your roster. And there's no portal after that either. Like, this is the last chance. On Friday is the final chance for a player to enter the transfer portal, and we will not have an answer by Friday if there will be a 105 roster size or not. Absolutely insane. And Kansas State's not the only one that's dealing with this. It's an issue across the country. And if players go into the portal because they were told they wouldn't make the 105, even if this 105 comes back or it's not even a thing, are you going to want to come back to Kansas State or that program that says you're not going to be one of the best 105 players? Are you going to want to come back? Regardless of how great that feeling was, until that conversation happened, something changed after that conversation. You can't tell me otherwise. We're all human. When you're told you're not wanted, your thoughts change. Your feelings change. So regardless of what happened here with this hearing with Kansas State, with what's going on with other schools as well, if schools like Kansas State, and we're seeing other schools do it as well, are taking the good faith route, you probably are losing these players no matter what. They're probably not coming back. The team that we play week 0 in Dublin, Iowa State, probably had one of the most vocal thoughts about it as well today. Head coach Matt Campbell of Iowa State had some strong words against the cutting his roster down to 105. Quote, he said, "It's criminal. It's sad." And he's saying exactly what I think too. It's April and we don't know the rules yet. It's the silliest thing I've ever heard. He also goes a little deeper, says tough is not even the word because none of us get into coaching for these conversations. Talks about how he has to make these cut conversations too, just like Coach Kleiman. It's honestly, it's showing you where college football is today, and it's criminal, it's sad, it's disappointing. And when your real responsibility is the development of the student athlete, no matter where the student athlete falls in the football program, that's what's really hard. That's why this is so different. That's why this is so different to when you see NFL teams cut players to get to their 53-man roster after training camp and preseason. It's a different feeling. Money's involved now. I get it. I know. NIL is a whole different beast. And maybe it softens the blow just slightly for some of these players. But not many. Some of these players probably aren't getting NIL either. These are probably the players that don't have that opportunity. But if there is, that only softens the blow just slightly. I hate it, but we're going to keep talking about it in the future because we got to stay informed and we got to see what's happening here. If I had to get a guess here, I'm guessing that NCAA is going to come back with some sort of plan that is revised, not to the likings of Judge Wilkin, but it's going to be a compromise. And Judge is either going to put her foot down yet again and say it needs to be this or nothing, or they're going to go ahead and go with it. The NCAA doesn't sound like somebody who's going to just back down. They're going to continue to play chicken with this federal judge, which is insane. So I'm guessing this is not going to end after the next hearing. We're probably going to get another step of this, and we'll have you covered here on Locked On Kansas State when that happens. Let's get into a little lighter side of things to end up this show. There's a new home for one of the greatest Kansas State Wildcats of all time. We'll talk about that here, right here on Locked On Kansas State. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Well, turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with the Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite TV shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. I think it's endless entertainment with this Fire Stick TV. 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies, TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and so much more. I'm into gaming. I love College Football 25. Don't get me wrong, and the fact that I don't have to have a huge console sitting on my desk is a great feeling. And it's just nice having that, just a controller and kicking some butt with Kansas State on College Football 25. And I'll have thanks to Fire Stick TV 4K devices for that one. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, the second gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, first and second gen, and Fire TV Cube, third gen. Welcome back to the show, Locked On Kansas State. If you haven't already, click subscribe because we are bringing you Kansas State Wildcats coverage like no one else every single day. And I thank you for being an everydayer and listening every single day. Well, Tyler Lockett, the wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks for years, and obviously one of the greatest players in Kansas State Wildcats history, has found a new home. He has now signed a contract with the Tennessee Titans 1 day before the NFL draft. According to Adam Scheffler, the compensation for free agent wide receiver Tyler Lockett is a 1-year deal for $4 million that's worth up to $6 million. Looks like there's about $2 million in incentives with the Tennessee Titans. And this is an exciting piece for Tennessee. One, it's a little closer, just a little bit, slightly to Manhattan, right? I mean, not by much, but just a little bit. And it gives him an opportunity to put him not as a top wide receiver because he's older. There's no doubt about that. But it's a decent offense. And with Brian Callahan as the head coach, who did really good things with Joe Burrow at the beginning of his career in Cincinnati, is going to have the opportunity to do the same thing with the most likely number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, on Thursday night. The projected Titans offense as of right now is quarterback Cam Ward. You have 2 decent running backs in Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. And then your wide receiver room is going to look like Calvin Ridley, Treylon Burks, and Tyler Lockett. That's a pretty good offense for a team that just picked number 1 overall or is picking number 1 overall tonight. Not bad. I like it. And, Tyler Lockett obviously had a great career with Seattle, played with Seattle for a bunch of seasons, but he's 32 years old, and it's cool that he's getting an opportunity to continue his career elsewhere. Overall in his career, he has 661 receptions for over 8,500 yards and 61 touchdowns. Awesome. Really, really cool things that are happening for Tyler Lockett in his career. Again, one of the greatest Kansas State Wildcats of all time, gets an opportunity to play on a second team, and it's just a really cool thing. Was a 3rd-round pick in 2015. This will be his 11th season in the league. After playing for 10 years for Seattle, he's going to find an opportunity to play a little closer to home for him. He's from Tulsa, Oklahoma, with the Tennessee Titans in Nashville. I'm rooting for him. I think it's going to be a really exciting thing to see him have an opportunity to give a rookie quarterback an opportunity, right? And that's something that we always love to see. And I like a true underdog story, and finding Tyler Lockett as an opportunity to get back in with the NFL is great. I'm excited for the NFL draft that's going to happen tonight. We're going to dig into stuff on the afternoon episodes, so be sure to check that out. We're going to dig into the potential Wildcats that will be drafted this weekend. And of course, we're going to start that conversation with a recruit that came down to his final 5 and Kansas State's in the mix. We'll talk about that on this afternoon's show. And I thank you for making Kansas State, Locked On Kansas State, your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. Have your favorite collegiate players get ready for the next level. Get your latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And this has been Locked On Kansas State.